Today on Sugar Spun Run, I'll be showing you how to make a spice cake. Hey everyone, Sam here, and I'm really excited to be sharing my favorite spice cake recipe with you today. This is actually a modification of my very popular carrot cake, except of course it doesn't contain carrots, and we've amped up the spices just a bit. It's super moist, super full of flavor, perfect for fall, though of course you can make it anytime. So let's go ahead and get started. Now the first thing you want to do is get your oven preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Next, you are going to need a pretty large sized bowl. Now we've got a lot of stuff we're going to be adding to this bowl. We are going to start with 2½ cups of all-purpose flour, 1½ cups of firmly packed dark brown sugar, a ½ cup of granulated sugar, 1½ teaspoons of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, a teaspoon of salt. And now let's add our spices. We're going to start with 2½ teaspoons of ground cinnamon, 1½ teaspoons of ground ginger, 3/4 teaspoon of allspice, a ½ teaspoon of ground cloves, and just a 1/4 teaspoon of ground nutmeg. Now we're just going to stir everything together. I'm actually just going to be using the spatula, breaking up this brown sugar and getting everything really well combined in here. Next, we're going to be adding a cup of either canola oil or vegetable oil. Either one will work fine. And ½ cup or 1 stick of melted unsalted butter. Now you could stir everything together by hand, but the dough or the batter gets pretty stiff at this point, so I like to switch over to using my electric mixer just to make the job a little bit easier. We're just going to stir everything until it's well combined. Now we'll add our eggs. You are going to need 4 large eggs for this recipe, and I really recommend that you use room temperature eggs so that everything gets nicely combined. You don't really want to be adding cold eggs with a warm butter, so room temperature eggs are the way to go. We're going to be adding these one at a time. Now we're going to be adding 1 tablespoon, yes, a full tablespoon of vanilla extract. This is going to help give that cake a really nice vanilla undertone. Finally, we're adding 1/4 cup of buttermilk. Now, if you don't have buttermilk on hand, I do have a very easy substitute you can use, and I'll link to that in the description below. Everything is looking pretty good here. I'm just going to give the sides and bottom of the bowl a nice scraping with my spatula. I just want to make sure that all of our ingredients are nicely combined. We don't have any flour sitting on the bottom, and all that buttermilk is nicely worked in. Now our spice cake batter is ready to bake, so the next thing you're going to need is a 13×9 baking dish. I like to use a glass baking dish, and I have lightly greased this with baking spray. I'm just going to pour my batter in here. Now let's take this over to our 350 degree Fahrenheit preheated oven, where it's going to need to bake for about 35 to 40 minutes. You're going to want to let your spice cake cool completely before you cover it with frosting. Today I'm going to be making a silky cream cheese frosting to go on top of this cake. It's a little bit softer and smoother than my favorite, very easy to pipe cream cheese frosting, but it's just as good, and it perfectly complements this moist spice cake. We're going to need 8 ounces of softened cream cheese, a ½ cup of softened unsalted butter, and I'm also going to sprinkle in just a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And you'll want to use an electric mixer to stir everything together until it's creamy and well combined. The last thing that you're going to need to add for this frosting is 3½ cups of powdered sugar, and we're just going to stir this in gradually. This is looking pretty good. I'm just gonna use my spatula now to scrape the sides and bottom of the bowl so that we can make sure all of that powdered sugar is completely combined. All right, let's go ahead and spread this over our spice cake. Just remember, your spice cake needs to be completely cooled, otherwise you're going to have a melty, runny cream cheese mess on top. Just going to use an icing spatula just to smooth that cream cheese frosting over the top. All right, let's go ahead and dig in. All right, that is how you make this super moist, super flavorful spice cake with cream cheese frosting. I hope you guys give this one a try. It's great for fall, but really it's great any time of the year. If you try it out, let me know what you think. I love hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. You're gonna like this one. Hey, if you guys enjoyed today's spice cake video, I would really appreciate it if you would give me a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Also, if you enjoyed today's recipe, here are a few others you might like.